I actually had it. So just be aware before you say anything terrible about me or anybody else. Um, anyway, we should have several more people joining us. Do me also a favor and go ahead and type your name in the chat, because we actually do keep track of who comes to all these and how many hours you donate of your time and all that stuff. So I will be tracking that for later.
So just type her name in the chat.
Yeah, just in the chat, type your name, please. And that way I don't have to worry about, we're supposed to have about 12 or 14 people showing up, and it's hard for me to do attendance. Attendance is always my hardest thing. I don't know why, but it is. So that's, it's just one good way for us to, for me to be able to make sure I've got everybody. So how's everybody been doing?
Been doing good.
Good. Are you reading? Are you in your classrooms reading already? Well, Wanda, I know you are, because you did the bees this morning.
I sure did. It was a bee dance. Very good book.
There we go. Good, good, good.
We had a guest reader today.
Oh.
My husband came along and we did 3 Billy Goats Gruff and 3 Little Pigs, and the kids ate it up.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
and when he's the troll and he falls off his chair. We do the troll and Big Billy Goat Gruffs, and he has a squirt bottle and he squirts water up over the kids.
Oh, God. That's awesome. That is awesome. Hello, Dolores, and hello, Rini. How are you? I see we have 2 people on Dolores's screen. Hi. Are you Mr. Martin?
No. Yeah, that's he's no, I'm Martin Howe now.
Oh.
Yeah, this new husband.
Congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
I've been married for so long, and I just keep thinking, would I change my name again? I don't know if I would change I would definitely go with a hyphen now, I think. Because I've been married for 41 years and I still don't feel like I'm telling people my actual name when I So anyway, all right. I've asked everybody to type your name in the chat, please, because that will make it easier for me to do attendance a little bit later. We may have a few more people joining us, but let's get started. How many of you read to children younger than 3 years old?
Oh,
nobody? I love you all. I only say that because I go through the 3 to 5 books first. And then if there are people who, now there may be still people joining us in a few minutes who read to younger, but we'll do those. It used to be that we had 1 sneak peek a year. When I first started with Ready Readers at the very beginning of the year in about mid-October, about right now, we would gather everybody together and we would show them the books for the year. And we would very speedily read through the books and say, bye. And so there really wasn't much discussion of anything. There wasn't any, giving and receiving of ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. So I think it's much better now, but sometimes it just kills me sometimes that after when we would go through the 6 books before, it still was only 90 minutes to cover all 6 books for the entire year. So it's sometimes funny when I look at the clock and it's been 75 minutes and we're still talking about 2 books. But that's okay, because the more familiar you feel with the books, the more you will enjoy presenting them, and the more you enjoy it, the more they're going to enjoy it. So for the people who just came on in the last couple of minutes, I am taping this. So just call your lawyers now or whatever you need to do, but I am taping this. I actually had a volunteer who said that she couldn't make she's going to be out of town. She couldn't make any of the times. And would I consider taping the Zoom meeting And I thought, that's not a bad idea. We should probably just do that anyway. So, although I get nervous because I'm afraid I'm going to mess up and then it's going to be there for eternity, for everybody to witness and hold on to my mistakes, but that's okay. All right, let's get started. Has anybody read either of these new books to your classes yet? Dennis, you did. How did you do the I Am Amazing?
Yeah, no, I started with You Are Important.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the same idea. But I
Right.
did the You're Important yesterday, and it went really well. I was surprised they liked it as much as they did. I think the visuals really grabbed them because it's such a great set of graphically designed pages. So
Exactly.
but yeah, it went well.
Exactly. And I think these affirmation books that we have taken to using as the first book of the year. First of all, did any of you attend a workshop last year? I think it was last year with Julius B. Anthony was a presenter. So Carol, where he talked about affirmations and how important affirmations are for young children, especially young children of color. And we at that time, I don't believe had been giving out any affirmation books. And it was a new concept. You may think that we know everything that we're doing and talking about, but we're still learning. I mean, every week we learn more things about either literacy or, the state of literacy in our country and our state, or just getting in contact with people who have different experiences than we do, to help us learn how to serve our kids. So Julius has been a wonderful partner for us because, when I first came to Ready Readers, it was a bunch of old white ladies. And, we don't know what we don't know. And so we have made great strides in the last 7 or 8 years to have more people on staff who actually have lived what we are trying to, work, the situations that we're trying to work with, and their knowledge and compassion can help guide us. And Julius, even though he doesn't work directly with us, for those of you who don't know Julius, he is the founder and president of the St. Louis Black Authors of Children's Literature. He is also the founder and president of the Believe Projects, and they are putting libraries into schools and community facilities where lots of children of color congregate, and so they can have access to books and see themselves reflected in the books that they have available to them. So we support him. We buy lots of books to give him for his libraries, but he has just really been good about understanding that we are really serious about equity, that we understand that we are an equity organization, and that is a very big undertaking. And he has helped us to kind of see where we actually stand and where we need to go in order to be more effective. And anyway, so Julius came and did a workshop for our volunteers 1.5 years or so ago about using affirmations. And he has several authors in his St. Louis Authors of Black Literature group that have done affirmation books. So last year we gave away our first affirmation book, which was called, who remembers? Cool Cuts. And a lot of volunteers were very worried about how do we present this? It's not a story. Affirmation books by nature are not stories with a beginning and a middle and an end. And therefore they can be harder to get kids engaged with if you're not sure how to present them. So I remember really, I don't remember many negatives from that book last year, except that I'm not sure how to go about presenting this and making it a really fun presentation. But as it turns out, the kids are smarter than all of us, as usually is the case. And the kids ate it up and loved it and didn't need any help connecting with the book whatsoever. They loved that book. And I'm really hoping that we get the same kind of response with this book that we're giving away first. So I am very excited that my friends Rhonda and Carol have saved my rear because I am doing this from my home. I did not go into the office today. I've worked about the last 3 weeks with no days off. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to stay home today. I'll do this from home. And I forgot to bring the books that we're discussing tonight home with me. So Wanda is going to save me and read the first book aloud. If you have these 2 books, You Are Important and Alphabet Time, thank you. If you have them, if you've already picked them up from Ready Readers and you have them, go ahead and follow along. Wanda, I'm not going to ask you to hold it up so we can all see the pictures unless you feel comfortable doing that. Wanda's going to read the picture,
Could I
the
hold it?
story, and Carol is going to show the pictures.
Okay.
There we go. But
That's
it's
teamwork.
It's teamwork, I'm telling you. All right, I'm
Right.
going to turn off my my volume and then please proceed.
Okay. This is You Are Important. It's written by Todd Snow, illustrated by Melody Strong. Ding, turn page. Says you are important. Oh, turn. One more time, Carol. Yes. Says you are important because you were born and became part of your family. You are important because you are growing and learning new things. You are important because you smile and laugh. You are important because you tell me when you're sad and when something hurts. You are important because you give hugs that help others feel better. You are important because you listen and take turns. You are important because you imagine and have fun. You are important because you are kind and gentle. You are important because you explore and find new things. You are important because I get to hug you and tell you I love you every day. And that's the end. You are important.
Good job. Yay. All right. So I am going to share my screen and pull up the grid that we have been using or that we use during these things. So for those of you who are new to this process, this grid I came up with a couple of years ago. It seems to work for this task. And hold on, I'm trying to find well, oh, there's the chat. Okay. I just have to have the chat open in case people show up late. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so I call this becoming a book detective, right? We're going to use this grid to learn what do we want to focus on, or what do we want to be aware of in the book that maybe we can engage kids in discussion about. So let's look first at, well, we don't have to go topics, then vocabulary. It did switch it up a little bit. I used to start this grid out with songs and finger plays, and I realized that I don't want to give readers the wrong impression. I don't want you to feel like you should have a new song or finger play every week. In fact, it's the opposite, right? Repetition is so important. So if you settle on three or four different songs or finger plays that you repeat throughout the year, that way, why is that better than introducing a new song or a new finger play every week?
I think it gives kids a feeling of confidence because they know what's coming next.
Exactly. And when they know what's coming, what can they do?
They can participate.
They can participate, right? It shouldn't be the Ready Readers show. It's supposed to be an interactive story time. So it's not about us learning and showing them new things and, all of that. It really is more about getting them engaged in doing the finger plays and singing, because when they learn them, then they can sing them when we're not around, or maybe they can even engage their families in singing it, and they can play teacher and get their families involved. So I moved the finger plays and songs down just to not give it so much visual credence that's where we want to start. Okay, so let's talk about what type of book is this? What's maybe one vocabulary word? Pardon me, we could use, okay, this is the first time I've used this specific program and I don't like how it's happening. But anyway, so I'm going to start with vocabulary and putting affirmation. I don't think it's a bad idea. I love teaching kids new words. I love showing excitement over learning new words. And I think it's always fun to encourage kids to look for and learn new words on their own. Vocabulary is a huge piece of the puzzle that we want to tackle with kids. We want to send them to kindergarten and beyond with the biggest, most robust vocabulary we can. And the best way to do that is reading aloud and then discussing. So I think it would be a good idea to talk about the word affirmation. What does that mean? And, how can that make us feel better? How can that change, maybe if we're in a bad mood or a little sad someday, how can reading a book, an affirmation book, help change that? Let's look. Yes.
Sheila, how about the word important? Because I think they maybe know what it means, but it's so, excuse the bad, it's so important in this book.
Well, not only that, but I think that is exactly, if we don't go with affirmation first, we should go with important first. And I would encourage you to ask the kids, how would you describe important? Can you tell me someone that's important or something that is important to you? The more we can connect these concepts to their everyday life, that is going to have much more meaning for them than us just spouting off important means. No. So get them involved in figuring out, how do we describe that word? What is a definition, or how do you assess whether or not someone or something is important? At our first sneak peek for this book, we had a volunteer who was very hung up on the idea that, well, the things that they say in this book do not make people important. You're not important because you're nice. You're not important because you're this or that. And I said, well, that is certainly one way of looking at it. And I'm not going to disagree with that, okay? But your job as a Ready Reader is to find a way to accept what this book says so that you can present it to the kids in a way that they're going to be excited about it. So I said, instead of thinking that being kind makes you important, or you are important because you're kind, maybe you could phrase it as, I feel important when she is kind to me. So maybe you could look at it that way, that maybe the important is how you make somebody else feel when you treat them with respect and kindness and love and things like that. What else did we hear about vocabulary in there? Go ahead and page through your books if you want and see if you see any specific words that jump out at you. And when I say vocabulary to explore, it doesn't mean it has to be a brand new word for them, but it could be a word that might lead to a good discussion.
Gentle, do you think?
I think gentle is a concept that all children are told to be gentle. But I think also, I think that's a great discussion topic, and say, how can you show someone that you are gentle? Okay, so it has to be something that they can kind of wrap their brain around, you know. How can you, is there someone or something in your life that you are careful to be gentle with? Could be an elderly grandparent. It could be a brand new baby or a new puppy, right? It could be the house plants that they're always being yelled at not to knock over or something, right? So there are lots of times in your life when it's important to be gentle. Can you tell me about one of those? What else do we have that we can explore?
What about imagine?
Yes. And again, children have heard the word imagine, but invite them to do it with you right now. Close your eyes. Think about it. Let's see. Let's think. Let's think about a time when you needed somebody to be gentle with you. Imagine what is happening. Invite them to do it. Don't just talk about having an imagination and how that is important, right? But invite them to imagine with you something, even for just 2 minutes, and get them involved in that. And then, of course, you have to give them a moment to share what they were imagining with you if they want. What else do we have?
When the child is sharing the feelings about tell me when you're sad or when something hurts, sharing feelings is important.
So I'm going to say sharing feelings. And then when we get to the emotions part, we'll talk about the specific feelings that either are mentioned or that might come up when talking about this with children. But yes, sharing feelings is important. And one of the reasons that I have this emotions to discuss is always a part of this grid sheet that we use, is because it's really important for us to model for our teachers especially, and just to be sure that we're doing it for the welfare of the kids, that we need to help them develop their emotion vocabulary, their emotional literacy. Children start getting kicked out of class in preschool, and because they can't manage their behavior. Usually their inability to manage their behavior comes from being either overstressed or not having the language they need to explain to peers or grown-ups in the room what is wrong and what help they need. And so when you don't have the word, and I was a teacher for a long time, and I was guilty of saying, use your words. But, we know that kids today do not get it read to as much at home as we would like, because parents are incredibly busy. Parents are doing their best, the best they can to, work their job or jobs usually, and make sure that their child is tended to and taken care of and fed and safe and warm. And that's exhausting. It's hard. Prices keep going up, and yet, incomes are not going up. Childcare keeps going up. Incomes are not going up. And so, if parents can't do everything, I would rather have them not read to their child than not feed them. But we know that a lot of that one-on-one talking is really necessary for kids to feel safe and grow in a safe environment. Anyway, so I'm off on a tangent again, sorry. Emotional literacy can help children communicate their needs. I bring this up, I just spoke about 10 days ago at a conference on the preschool to prison pipeline. Are you all familiar with that concept? Is there anybody that's not familiar with the preschool to prison pipeline?
I'm not.
So
Mhm.
what that talks about is we live in a country that is that has a for-profit prison system, which means that there are people gleefully crunching numbers to figure out how many people they can assume will be headed to jail in the next 10 to 20 years. One of the factors they use to determine how many beds will be needed is third grade reading scores. Third grade reading scores are pivotal in predicting a child's educational future. And if you are not reading at grade level by the end of third grade, the chances of you graduating from high school plummet. This is why we start before kindergarten, okay? We need to get to kids when their brains are making a bazillion different connections and, you know, forming new neural pathways all the time. We need to get to them now and give them these emotion words, because what happens is if they start becoming excluded, exclusionary practices where you say, oh, you can't handle being with the group, so you have to sit over here. That's the first exclusionary practice. Or move your desk up next to mine because you can't be trusted to sit with the other kids. Then it usually goes to go sit outside the classroom. Then it goes to go to the principals. And in the end, after 5 or 6 times, they get kicked out of school. So if that continues to happen to children when they get to junior high and high school age, usually if they get expelled from school, they come into contact, negative contact with the criminal justice system, usually within a year. So we need to do what we can for young children now to prepare them to be confident about their ability to be successful in school. And talking about emotions and giving them the power to advocate for themselves and not be picked out because they can't, you know, blend in or whatever is what we're all about. Okay, I will try to stay in my lane now. But anyway, it's a big thing, and it's not pretty, and it shouldn't be this way in my mind, but it is. So we have to know that, and we have to work to avoid that for our kids. All right, let's get back to You Are Important. Were there any? So let's talk about topics to discuss. How about who is important? Oops. You know, if you ask the kids in your class, can you tell me the name of somebody important? Who do you think they might say?
The teacher?
Teacher might be important. Absolutely.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Right? Some people might say that, Beyonce. But what we want kids to understand, in fact, I would ask that question before reading the story. This is called You Are Important. Who do you think this book is going to be about? Who is important? Can you think of somebody in your life that is important? And, you know, they may say, my mom, or, you know, my dad, or whoever they choose to pick. And say, oh, are they important because they know how to fly a plane? Or they, you know, no, you just find out that they're important because they take care of me and they love me. And that does make you important. So, you know, I think just kind of planting that seed before you read the book, so that as you read the book, it kind of answers the question, you are important because all of these things are happening. What about emotions? What emotions do we see in the book? Anything that is anything alluded to through the text in the book? The one page talks about, you know, you tell me when you're sad or you're hurt. But other than that, I don't know that there's a whole lot of textual. I wonder how long Julie Berger's been waiting to get in. Whoops. I don't know if
Smile and, smile and laugh. Is that-
smile and laugh. So let's do this. We're going to put down the clues to emotions, and then you can ask them, what emotion do you think they're feeling? So we're going to say smiling, laughing. What else? Let's say hurt. What else is alluded to or talked about?
Like the hugs one.
Yes.
What
The
is
hugs.
what does
The
it say?
sharing the hug.
Sharing hugs, great. So these are actions, but when you talk about the actions, you can say, how did you feel when you needed a hug? Right? Or have you ever had a friend who needed a hug? How were they feeling and what were you able to do to connect with them and make them feel better? So it doesn't matter if you start with the action first and to get to the emotion, or if you start with the emotion and get to the action, doesn't matter. But making that connection for kids will help them next time they're feeling some way they don't know how to describe, but they know they need a hug. That in itself would help their teacher know this child needs attention, right? This child needs some help. Anything else we can think of? I'm gonna say, how do you feel?
The child who put the blanket over, I guess, a grandfather,
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that page.
identified that the grandfather needed something.
Yes. That's the gentle one, I think, right? Is that the
Mhm.
gentle
Yes,
page?
it is kind and gentle.
Yes. Well, let's just say kind and gentle. So these are all things. Now, I am going to be typing up all the notes from all three of these and sending them out via email I'd say by Tuesday, depends on how busy the rest of the week is. But so if you want to take notes now, you can, but if you also want to wait for the recap, that's fine too. All right, let's look at let's go back to this topics to discuss. We've got the who is important that you're going to talk about before you read the book. But then you can look at the pictures on each page. The one with the grandpa sleeping. You could always ask, why do you think he's so tired? Just after you've read the book the first time, I always suggest that the first time you read the book, to introduce it, you read from the cover to the back cover without stopping, so that kids get the feel for how the book flows. After that, you can go back and do a page by page, idea or whatever to talk about different things. Or you could just ask kids, what was your favorite thing? Or do you have a favorite page? That usually works best when they are holding the books after you've handed the books out. But also, in addition to who is important, what about, like I said, just looking at the pictures and talking about what is happening in that picture? The one where the child is crying and the mom figure is, I think, putting a Band-Aid on something. I mean, that's a great, and that could be where the imagination comes in. Imagine you were that child. How did you get hurt? What were you doing that you got hurt, right? So that's another thing, we talk about. Did all of you come to the, April did a big back to school thing at Ready Readers, I think back in August or September. And there were different things set up all around. We had talked about at that time, oh gosh, what am I talking about now? You guys, I'm sorry. This is not my best time of night. It's gone. If it was important enough, it'll come back. Otherwise, we're just going to keep moving on, because you just never know it's going to go and when it's going to come back. All right. I'm going to assume that will come back later. Possible companion books. Now, the companion books, for those of you, again, who this might be your first time joining us in this process, we talk about companion books because we say, we want you to introduce this raw book or read at home book. We want you to introduce it on 1 week. And I suggest that that is the second book you read or the third book you read if you read 3 books. You read 1 book that doesn't have to be, in the same vein, but it can be. And then you talk about it, you have your discussion, you sing your song and whatever. And before you leave, you run through the book that you'll be giving away soon. Then the following week, when you bring it back to give it away, that's the only book that you read. And you read it several times during that day. But the companion book can really come in handy the first week when you are just introducing the book and you're just going to read it through that one time. So for people who like to do things thematically, what are some books that would be good companions for You Are Important?
Let's see here.
Rock What You Got.
Yes. Who said that? Is that you,
Dolores.
Dolores?
Yeah.
I love. Have you ever heard Asia, the author, perform that live?
No,
Oh, you've got to. If you have a chance, she does it fairly frequently. I mean, like several times a year, she'll do it. She's a poet anyway. And if you don't know this book, come see me the next time you're in the office. We have some copies that I think everybody should have one of these books. It's by a local author. She is actually one of the St. Louis Black authors of children's literature. And it's just a great affirmation story, but it's a great story because kids can take part and kids can get into it. It's got a great rhythm. Anyway, yes, Rock What You Got. Good
Do you
one.
know this one?
I see Carol saying, I like myself. Absolutely.
Like
That's a great
myself.
one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love that.
If you have already picked up your books, did you receive a book that we bought just for you to keep all year long called There's Only One You?
There's
Thank
Only
Julie.
You.
I picked that book because I thought it would be a really great book that you could read again and again. I think it's a book that you could keep in your bag and pull it out if somebody's having a bad day and just kind of keep it there and read it whenever you need to kind of buoy their spirits up a little bit.
There's a lot in this book. I mean, it's long and away. There's a lot in all of the pictures. It's almost overwhelming as far as I'm concerned.
Well, so what can you do with something that you deem is too long or too much? You don't have to read all the pages, right? Because it,
Particularly this one, because it's an affirmation book, so you could just pick out.
Like you could paperclip 4 or 5 pages in the middle together because it's not like it doesn't go in a certain, pattern or anything. It's not A, B, C, then D. So if it's something, and like you said, it not only has a lot of text, but it has a lot that you could talk about in the pictures themselves. So I could see you spending almost an entire day just reading that book, In fact, as I was reading it again, I thought I had brought this up as a potential raw book about 3 or 4 years ago, and nobody was really crazy about it for that reason. They thought it was more of a teachery book, like it would be good to have in the classroom or something. But I made the executive decision to order it this year anyway. So you guys all got it. So I'm going to put that one down, and it's called
There's Only One You.
Only One You. Okay. Any other ideas? Not that you need this many, but any other ideas? Oh, Hugsby. I've never seen that one, Renee. Hugsby. Have you read that to your kids, Renee? I can't hear you, but you could nod. It doesn't matter how many times we do this. I'm still confused by this Zoom process. Anyway, just nod your head. Renee, have you read it to your kids? Did they like it? Yes. Okay, there we go. This is, by the way, how I do my story times, my online story times. Give me a thumbs up if you, because you know, when you got 6 classrooms going, they all have to have their sound off, you know. Okay, Hugsby, I'm going to look that one up because I've never even heard of that book before. All righty then.
Have you heard the
Um,
one, Everyone Needs a Hug? It's all
Oh.
different animals, and it's called Everyone Needs a Hug.
I don't know that one either. Everyone needs a hug, but I agree with the sentiment. Okay, that thing I was going on before had to do with topics to discuss, but anyway, it's gone. So, okay, so songs or finger plays. Any idea of a song or finger play that you could use during the weeks that you're doing this book with your kids?
I am special.
Yep.
Yes, and you know, during my first in-person one, Gail Figueroa, another volunteer, had like a long multi-verse one that she sent me, and I'm going to print that in the thing. But for those of you who don't know, does everybody know the I Am Special song? I would be very surprised if everybody knew this. So my version, which is probably not on tune, but you get the idea, is I am special, look at me, you will see someone very special, that is me, that is me. So that's kind of the short and sweet version. I will give you and it's Frere Jacques in case you really couldn't understand what that song was supposed to be. But I will print the larger or the longer version in the recap. Anything else that you can think of that would go with this?
So in the book, Rock What You Got, we use that as an affirmation with our group, you know, just you know, I took like just the first like stanza that she does in that.
Mhm.
And I taught that to the kids. Like we repeatedly said that over and over as we went through the story.
I love it.
Love it. They really love like the Rock What You Got. I made a little hand clap thing to go with it and all that, but
That's awesome. So really, if you don't have a copy of Rock What You've Got, come talk to me or anybody at the office. Doesn't have to be me.
Excuse me, Sheila, it's instead of Everyone Needs a Hug, it is Who Needs a Hug?
Who needs a hug? Okay.
And they have
The answer is everyone needs a hug.
yeah, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the book.
Okay. Who needs a hug? All right. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about or discuss about this book before we move on to the second title? Is anybody worried about whether or not the kids are going to receive it well or how to present it so that they do receive it well? Anything like that? Just because it's not a story. Yes, Dennis.
Sheila, just a kind of a random comment. I found there are a couple of concepts here. I have mostly 3 and 4 year olds in my
Okay.
class, 20 of them. And when I came to like this page, the one with the frog and the princess, I
Yeah.
got the sense they had no clue about what the frog and the princess were.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you
So-
for
so
mentioning
I had
that.
to, I just paused a little bit and I talked about what the princess was and what the fairy tale was. And it says sometime you'll hear more about the fairy tale, but they were like drawing a complete blank about that picture.
Right. So in the topics to discuss, who are the people in the pictures? I'm going to
Yeah.
put it.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I think probably all of us recognize that that picture is referring to what fairy tale?
Princess and the Frog.
The Princess and the Frog. But parents have not been reading fairy tales to their kids for a couple of generations now. Traditional tales and folk tales are really just not happening anymore, you know, from a parental standpoint. And so most kids, I would venture, would be confused. Like, why is that chick holding the frog?
Mhm.
So, you know, that way you can say, does anybody know what this is or who this is or what story this is calling to mind? And then you can tell them that it's from a fairy tale called The Princess and the Frog. And she thinks that if she kisses the frog, it will turn him into a handsome prince. So in her imagination, she's hoping that he will become a frog. That's really, but you're right, Dennis. That has come up in every other meeting that they don't know who that is. And really, they shouldn't. I mean, there's no reason they should anymore. Although, was Tiana the newer, I mean, I want to say newer Disney, but within the last 10 years, Disney, I think. Tiana is one of the newer Disney princesses, but was she a princess in the frog, or was she just a different kind of princess that dresses in green?
I think she was the Princess and the Frog. I was gonna say kids would recognize that Disney movie.
So if you said, does anybody know Princess Tiana? That might help them grasp what that idea is. But again, if they haven't seen that, because it is older enough, like they've probably all seen the new Little Mermaid, but you know, that one is old enough that maybe they won't be familiar with it. So, but that's the way to handle that. If you ever, if that ever comes up with any book or any page in any book, I always say, what do you think this is about? And then I listen to what they think that is about. And then I try to give the correct answer as close to the terms that they have used. You know what I'm saying? Because I want them to share in being right about what they thought. So even if maybe what they give you as an idea isn't the main idea, still find a way to include what they've said so that they feel heard and seen and valued. Okay. Anything else before we go on to alphabet time? Nope, here we go, kids. Next up, alphabet time. I thought this book was adorable. I love it. And you know, we don't do ABC books every year because it's really hard to find what we consider a good ABC book. In our opinion, a good ABC book doesn't just say A and apple. You know, there should be a story connected to it that keeps the kids interested in turning the pages one after another. And then they can kind of notice, oh, all of these kids have letters and stuff like that, right? It's kind of secondary to the storyline, but it's still very visible and vibrant part of the story. All right, so we can start anywhere you want. Oh, wait. Carol, were you going to read the story for us, please?
Yeah, didn't someone have a copy? Maybe they could do the same thing so I could focus on the reading.
It's the Wanda and Carol team to the rescue again.
Do you want to
Okay.
stop sharing your screen momentarily?
That would probably help. See, because I can see everybody.
Alphabet
forget it.
time. Susanna Leonard wrote the words, and the pictures. The illustrator was Betsy Snyder. And if you open up to this page, sort of the one with the, yes, looks like there's alphabet soup on it. And sometimes, this is an aside, but sometimes I will read the dedications and talk about the author and the illustrator dedicating the book to somebody special. And this has alphabet letters in it. So, okay, let's begin. Supper time is over. Everyone is fed. Next page. Alpha Mama says, time for bed. We're not sleepy, sing A, B, C. D and E chant, neither are we. To the stairs, race F and G. H yells, yeehaw, can't catch me. Impish I and Jazzy J are clowning around with kazoo playing K. L, M, N spin down the hall, whirling, twirling. Whoops, don't fall. O, P, Q, R try to hide. S gives T a piggyback ride. At the sink, no room for more. The toothbrush line goes out the door. U, V, W, X, Y, Z are brushing as a family. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z are splashing happily. Scramble
Sorry, go ahead.
into jammies as fast as can be. Who wants a story? Me. Once the final page is read, time for Alpha Baby's bed. One more drink, and one more hug. Alpha Baby's warm and snug. But when Mom turns off the light, it's Alpha Pillow Fight. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z, tossing, tumbling gleefully. Mom and Dad come down the hall. What's this Alpha free-for-all? Mama tucks them in just right. Daddy kisses each good night. This time babies finally fall asleep from A to Z.
Yay, good job, guys. I was a little premature clapping there on my part. Sorry about that. You'd think I would have read this enough times to know. All right, here we go. Sharing my screen again. Thank you for notifying me that you needed me to turn that off because again, I completely forget it's on. And also, Julie Berger, I hope you didn't have to wait long in the waiting room when you came on. Good. Okay, thank you. All right, so here we go. Let's get back to the grid. Pardon me. So, what are some things that when you show the kids this book, you think they might find interesting?
The size of the family.
Yes. They may want to count how many children there are. One thing that I would consider, or that, yeah, I would have you consider doing is taking an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and either printing with a marker or printing it out on a computer. Have the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And that way, before you even read the story, invite them to sing the ABC song. And as they sing the ABC song, sing it slowly enough that you can point to each letter as you sing it. Most children, I mean, most 2-year-olds can sing the ABC song. But if you ask them any questions like, what letter comes after A, they don't know. Or what's that last letter? They don't know, because to them, it's just a song with sounds, okay? So until they start attaching meaning to the squiggle that is called A, right? So they have to first learn, of course I'm here without any good tools. So it's really hard for children when they are first learning to read. Can you see that? That those two squiggles that look nothing alike are both called A. And so it's a process for them to be able to figure out that two things can have the same name and the same sound, but look completely different. This is a good time to mention a companion book that would go great with this. Does anybody know of a book that has uppercase and lowercase letters in it?
Chicka chicka boom boom.
Thank you.
Mm.
Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. And Chicka Chicka Boom Boom remains one of my favorites because it has a story that explains why one A looks like this and the other A looks like this. If you're not familiar with the book Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, again, come see me. I have copies for you at the office. In the story of Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, this is a parent. This is a grown-up A, and this is a child A. So the children all go off to play and get banged up, and the parents have to come and save them. So that, I mean, I will forever be suggesting Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, if for no other reason than it really helps kids make sense of that whole upper and lowercase thing. We are not going to talk about whether or not you should teach all uppercase letters or a mixture of both, because teachers have been fighting over that for centuries. So we'll just recommend Chicka Chicka Boom Boom instead. Okay. What are some other things that happen in that story that kids might think are fun or funny, or, oh, did you see that? Or anything like that would get a rise out of kids?
The pillow,
Go ahead.
the pillow fight.
The pillow fight. You know, there isn't any, at least at the, you know, the parents come in later and they don't really talk about, did they get in trouble for the pillow fight, you know, whatever. But that might be something that kids have really never heard of before, especially if you don't live in a big family. You know, if you're one of one or two kids in a family, you may not have had a pillow fight with anybody. I come from a large family. I am a veteran of many pillow fights. What else happens? The picture that gives me the chills is the bathroom and brushing teeth one. Because I just keep thinking 26 kids in one bathroom. Oh my God. But you can talk about, if you had that many children in your family, what are some things that you would have to practice being a lot? Patient.
Patient, they need to
Right.
share.
You'd have to share. One good thing about having a big family is you always have friends around, right? Always someone to play with. Another thing that I would like you to, probably this would work best after you've read through it and given it out and you are going through the book for the final time while the kids have the book on their lap and they're turning their own pages. Look for the letters, the children with the letters, and look at the objects that they're either wearing or playing with or have nearby. And then do a little phonics work with them and talk about, this is the letter, what letter is on this child's shirt? What sound does that letter make? And then, so I think like, oh, there's one, I think maybe is the H kid is riding a hobby horse and is wearing a hat and stuff like that. That's what I mean.
Oh, the S kid is riding a skateboard.
There you
Yeah.
go. So, you know, they are not going to be fluent enough in reading and understanding the phonemic awareness. So you will have to lead them to that, right? And you don't have to stay on it forever, but just plant that seed. And then as they grow and they learn more about letters and their sounds, and they pick this book up again, they will then be able to discover more little gems like that in the story. I think this is one of those books that there is so much in these illustrations that kids could conceivably go back to this book 20 times and still find new things to notice, which in my opinion is the sign of a really good book. Any vocabulary in there that you think makes should be mentioned?
How about free for all?
Free for all. Very good. Absolutely.
Impish and jazzy.
Say it again.
Impish and jazzy.
Yeah.
Very good. Absolutely. Impish. And then, you know, you're gonna, I mean, how would you describe impish? I would maybe describe it as somebody who likes to play little tricks, or somebody who likes to tell jokes and have fun. You know, it doesn't have to be a Webster's dictionary, you know, quality, but
How about kazoo too?
absolutely. Kazoo is another one. And if you have time to stop by the party store and grab a $1.19 kazoo, that'd be great. But only get one, and then tell them no germs, no sharing, no germs. But yeah, kazoo, I would be very surprised if the majority of our kids knew what a kazoo was, you know. So as you're reading through the book, look for either things that are mentioned and maybe not even mentioned, but are pictured in the illustrations that maybe you can call out and talk about, call to their attention. Emotions, do we have any emotions happening in this book on any of the pages that could be called out? Again, it might not be mentioned in the text. Especially look for kids interacting with each other. And, you know, if one person in the group is doing something that maybe another person isn't going to like, that's a great way to say, look at this picture. What's happening in this picture? I see this child is doing this and this child is doing this. How do you think that child feels, or something like that? And I don't have a specific page in mind on this in this book, but I mean, that's the kind of thing that you can call attention to in almost any book, and have the kids actually go through a conversation of what do they think is happening. And has that ever happened to you? And have you ever felt like that? Those are the things that when we say, try to find the commonalities between what's happening in the book and our kids' real lives, because that is going to touch them. And again, that is going to be a connection for them that makes them want to come back and experience this book again. I can tell you that if I lived in a house with 26 children, besides being insane, which I'm not going to add to the list, I am going to add frustrated. Because especially, again, I hearken back to the bathroom teeth brushing picture that, oh, one good thing to notice though, is that in that bathroom list, you know, as you're going through the book, they're usually in line A to Z, right? Because they're getting the kids to recognize the letters in order. But in the bathroom picture, in the toothbrushing picture, how are they lined up? Who went first?
Z.
Which is great, because, you know, as a teacher who always made sure to switch up who got to be the line leader, because that's the only job anybody in preschool cares about, is being the line leader. And it's important. So I was so excited that the illustrator must have been a parent and decided to let Z go first. So if you do, in fact, take in your sheet of paper with the ABCs on it, call attention to the fact that A isn't first in this picture. Z, they went backwards, so that, because imagine if you were Z and you had to be last for everything you did. You know, there was cake and they had to cut it into 26 pieces. Do you think you might get left out? Do you think there might be no more cake by the time they get to 26? But so Z gets to go first, at least at night. Thank goodness for that. But if you have a piece of paper that you have the ABCs printed out on them, invite them to say it backwards. Again, you're going to have to do it really, really slowly. And don't sing it, just recite the letters, but put your finger on each one and say, you can go home and tell your family that you did the alphabet backwards today. Ask them if they can do the alphabet backwards. That's actually a vocabulary word that I'm going to put in here, is alphabet. Kids know the ABCs by the term ABCs, but they may not be familiar with the word alphabet. So when you're explaining the title of the book, Alpha Bedtime, you can say, well, I wonder why it's called Alpha Bedtime. I see lots of people reading stories before bed, but I wonder where the alpha comes in. Then when they see that all the kids have letters on them, say, oh, this is the alphabet family. Oh, I get it now. Okay. And then you can help them keep track of the letters as they go through. Anybody else have any emotions that you notice in the pictures that could be talked about?
How about patience?
Patience is always important. Patience. Mhm. Okay. Let's move on to ideas. Oh, any other ideas for possible companion books? Do you feel a need to have another book besides Chicka Chicka Boo? I mean, really, you could read any book about a family. You could read any book about the alphabet. Somebody in one of the other ones suggested the old Dr. Seuss ABC book. And I know some people are very, you know, Dr. Seuss is one of those, you're either in the yes camp or the no camp. There aren't a lot of gray area people on that. And it's kind of the same for a couple of books like The Giving Tree. And there's another book called I'll Love You Forever, that people either love it with all their heart or they hate it. And Dr. Seuss, before he was, you know, the newest thing was that he wrote a lot of racist stuff during the Second World War, referring to the Japs and things like that. I hate to tell you, but that was a product of the time. And he was in marketing. He was in advertising, actually. So would I read that stuff to kids? No, I wouldn't read that stuff to kids. But do I think that green eggs and ham is harmful to children? Absolutely not. And the fact is that at this stage in their life, when they are just becoming familiar with language, rhyming and nonsense words are really helpful. I've been in classes many times where the teacher will say, what rhymes with dark? And a child will say, cark. And they'll say, no. And I'll go, hold on, that totally rhymed, you know, but maybe the teacher was looking for an actual word and not a nonsense word. Dr. Seuss is the king of nonsense, right? So reading his books with a nice cadence and a nice pacing is really, really fun to listen to. It's like a game for your ears. Dolores, what did you want to say?
It's a book that I've read to the kids called Life with My Family.
Oh, yeah, we gave that away a couple years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was like,
That's-
that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That is a good one. I love that. I love that for so many reasons. That was a Sheila book that I pushed really hard for, because as a teacher, it has every STEAM thing. You know, it's got science and math and all kinds of good things in it. So
Sheila, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave. I look forward to seeing the notes from the rest of the meeting, but I've got
no problem. I don't
3
think we
things.
have much longer to go unless anybody
Okay.
here wants to do the 2-year-old and younger books. Anyway, how about songs, ideas for songs or finger plays? I mean, what's the most obvious song?
The ABC song.
The ABC song. And really, I don't think we have to brainstorm beyond that. I mean, I really do think that starting off before you even show them the book, starting off with that song and inviting kids to clap along as you sing. And like I said, make sure that you're doing it slowly enough so that you can enunciate each letter, but not so slowly that it's painful, right? And then, like I said, if you want to add the graphic to it where you're pointing at the letters as you sing it, I just think that is so helpful, especially if you're working with younger kids, especially threes. Having that chart that you can point at the letters while you sing them is really helpful for them to make that connection. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add?
I just have a quick question because I had to come in late with apologies.
Oh, no problem.
The timing on these, Sheila, are we hoping to give out You Are Important just sometime between mid-October, mid-November, and then the other one mid-November,
I
mid-December?
will tell you this, you will
Okay.
not receive another book to give away until January.
Okay, thanks.
So you have from now until the beginning of January or the second week of January to give these 2 books away.
Great.
When you do that is completely up to you, and
Right.
work that out with your teacher. Make sure that, I mean, schools close a lot these days for like when you're not expecting it. So if you can work with your teacher to get a calendar for the year and find out, how many of your regular days are not even going to be possible for you to go in and read, right?
Yep.
And then figure out your introduction day and your giveaway day from there. I always like to suggest that you don't want to give books away too close together, or
Right.
else they start to think that every time you come, you're going to give them a new book. Right. So we still want to, it comes out to be about once every 4 or 5 weeks that we end up giving a book, but it's not always exact. And so we just say that we're giving away You Are Important first. If you give away the other book first, will the world end? No. And no one will know but you and your kids in your class. Doesn't really matter. But we intend for You Are Important to go out first, and then the alphabet time book. So the next 2 books you guys will pick up, you won't be picking up until mid-January probably. Okay.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions?
Sheila, with the alphabet book, would there be any, reason to maybe talk about the sounds of the letters?
Yes, I love that. And if you have a chance to do it, how old are the kids that you're reading with, Susan?
3 and 4.
That's still okay. I mean, that's not too young.
Okay.
And no, so either I would still read, I would sing the ABC song and read through the story. And then, you can go back and page through as you want. So you can either make it part of reading the story. Oh, this is ABC. What sounds do they make? I think I would save it until you finish the story,
Okay.
because the rhyme scheme and the flow, you don't want to break that up. But after you finish reading the book, go back to the chart that you have that you used when you sang the ABC song at the beginning, and then say, did you know that each one of these letters has a sound it makes? And we're gonna learn the sounds together. And then you can point to the A and say, A can sound like A or A. And then say it with me, A, that's A. Do you have to do all 26 letters? No, but you could do maybe 4 or 5 a time and bring that back and have that be something that you incorporate into more than one lesson. Maybe the next week you read another book about the alphabet and you go back to it. So it's one thing that I think, since we go on a regular basis, we don't necessarily have to have things that are 1 week and done, right? Now, we often have classrooms where the same kids aren't in there every week, but unfortunately, those kids are used to coming in to lessons that, they may or may not have heard the beginning of. Not saying it's good, I'm just saying it is what it is. So don't feel like you have to cram everything in to one time. You can read these books multiple times a year. You can introduce it 1 week, give it away the next week, read through it the 3 times that day or 2 times that day with the kids, and then come back 6 weeks later with that book again. And we already read this book, yes, but I was reading it and there were tons of things we didn't get to talk about, right? And what's that going to do for them? Then they're going to go home that day and they're going to go, where's that book? I got to find my book and look at it again. So it's actually a really good part of our process to remind the kids about books we've already read this year. So, all right, anybody have anything else they want to share or talk about?
Well, I just had a question earlier. You mentioned a young man by the name of Julius. What's his last name?
Julius B, the letter B is his middle initial. Anthony is his last name. He is all over. The man, there's a joke. I mean, I believe he has 18 clones because he is everywhere all the time. I don't know how he rests, but he is getting stuff done. And he's a great guy. So yeah, look him up.
All right, thank you.
All right. It was lovely being with you. Special thanks again to my friends for helping me on this and saving this, because I thought, oh my gosh, if I have to reschedule this because I messed up, that's really not good. So thank you, Wanda.
All right,
And
you're
Rini,
welcome.
thank you for emailing earlier today saying, have the links gone out? Because
right.
they hadn't. And you reminded me. So thank you for that. Anyway, everybody, thanks for all you do.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
loving our
Thank you,
kids,
Sheila.
and have a
Thank you.
wonderful evening.
All right,
Have a
thanks,
good
Sheila.
night.
You also.
Bye.
Okay.